Morning, IPA. Welcome back. This is Miss Bessie with IPA Eats. As I promised you, this morning we're going to do fried apple pies. Now, the dough that I'm using is going to be called empanada dough, but you can make your own dough. If you're good at making pie crust, Mom, make your own dough. That's even better. But I'm going to use the empanada dough to save time. And so we're going to make the fried apple pies, but with this dough, know that you can also bake it in the oven. So you can do it either way. If you don't like fried, use the bake. Okay, come on over to my counter. Let's get started. This is my empanada dough that I have laid out here. And my ingredients, I'm using apple pie filling. Now, if you want to, you can peel and cut down your own apples. That's what I normally do when I'm working at the school. I peel and cut down my own apples, and then I add my seasonings. And I would also have cornstarch to go along with this, but since we're using apple pie filling, we don't need the cornstarch. And we're going to be adding a tablespoon of nutmeg. And just so you know about your seasonings, nutmeg is a really good anti-inflammatory. It has anti-inflammatory properties. Then we're going to add cinnamon. So I'm going to add a tablespoon of cinnamon, and cinnamon has anti-inflammatory properties. It also helps with heart disease and some other common ailments that you can use. It can help with arthritis and whatnot. So I'm adding these extra. You don't have to do that. You can just go ahead and just use the apple pie spice by itself. Okay, then I'm going to add about 1/4 of a cup of sugar. And I also have my caramel sea salt. Okay, and I've added this all together. I've added it all together and mixed it up, and this is what it looked like. This is the consistency. So now we're going to take, and I'm going to take and add, I like to add a pat of butter, especially if I'm putting it in the oven. If I'm going to cook it in the oven, I always add like a pat of butter to each, just to give it a little bit of extra flavor. Okay, so just add a pat of butter to each one. And these are so simple, and they fry up so quick. Okay, and then I'm going to take, and I'm going to add my apple pie. And you don't have to worry too much. You don't overdo it, but the empanada dough, you can stretch it around the pastry filling. But if it's, if you get too much in there, just wipe it off. It's not going to hurt anything. Just wipe it off, and then but I'm going to do about 6 of these because I've got my 6 grandkids here today, and we're going to have this for a snack. So and I took the apples that came, they were like sliced apples, the apples in the can. So I'm going to take, and I chopped them a little bit just so that they would fit into the empanadas. Okay. And you can find your empanada dough. Look in the frozen section, and it's Goya. And just so you know, I did wash my hands before we got started, but now I got apple pie filling, so I'm going to wash them again. Wash them again here, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold our dough and get it ready to go into the hot oil. And you remember, if you remember watching my donut video, it's the same thing. I just used the corn oil, and like I said, you can see there's a little bit coming out, so it's okay. A little bit coming out. Just take it and pinch it back in, and pinch these all around. Now, I've got some water here, and I'm going to just brush the sides of the pastry with the water just to help it to stick. This is just to help it to stick. So we just go around the edges, and then we'll take and pinch them all together, and we'll be ready to go. side there. Okay, but we'll take this and pinch it together like so. Okay, pinch it together so that it sticks. And if a little bit of the pie filling comes out, that's okay. Just wipe it off and keep going. Now, this dough will stretch, so you can pull it, but I caution against overfilling it, because once it goes into that hot oil, you don't want that all over your frying pan. Okay, whoops, and one's coming apart again, so just pinch it together like so. Pinch it together. Okay. Stretch this, and we're going to get all of these ready to go. Okay. And you should be able to fry at least 4 of these at a time. Now, once I get these all put together here, I'm going to take a fork and I'm going to go around the edges just to make sure that these are actually sealed so that they don't come apart. Okay, again, I'm going to get to the last one here. I'm going to fold that over and just tuck all that goodness inside. And remember, I said just add a little bit of butter on the inside with your apples, and you can bake these. If you bake them, they'll turn out just as wonderful as. Now I'm going to take my fork, and I'm just going to wet the fork, and I'm just going to go around the edges to make sure that they are sealed. Okay, just make sure that they are sealed and ready to go, so they don't come apart when we put them in the hot oil. And I've got my oil cooking over there. I've got my oil heating up. And I just use the regular corn oil. You can use vegetable oil. You can use Wesson oil. Wesson oil is one of my favorites that I use for cooking cakes. But you can use Wesson oil, vegetable oil, any kind of oil that you want. Now, I've not used anything like olive oil or grapeseed oil or any of those. I haven't tried that on these. But that's not to say that you can't experiment. And, okay, last one. There we go. You can experiment and see what happens. Okay? So, now, we got our apple pies all together. It's a little messy. Grab my towel here and clean my hands. And we're going to go over to the oil. And these should just slide right in, and it should only take a few minutes to cook these off. Now, my oil is a little dirty because I've already fried up. I tried some different dough just to see if I could get that crispy coating on it like they do at McDonald's, but it turned out crispy, but I wasn't pleased with it, so that's why I decided to go back to the empanadas. And it looks like I'm only going to be able to get 3 of these in here at a time, so we're going to do these 3. We're going to do these 3, and then we'll come back and we'll do the rest. But as you can see, if you use the apple pie filling and then just enhance it, and you can put as much cinnamon and as much nutmeg and allspice. Sometimes I put allspice in, and I put enough allspice in. Now, as I was saying before, cinnamon is loaded with antioxidants. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and it also is known for decreasing the risk of heart disease. And it improves your sensitivity to inflammation and help lower the blood pressure. Now, your nutmeg is good for pain relief. It helps with your skin, and It reduces insomnia, which is something, and depression, which is something that I didn't know. And it also helps to relieve pain, detoxify the body, and it helps to improve your blood flow. Okay, let's turn these just a little bit here and let's see what we got. Okay, they're cooking up. I'm going to turn these up a little bit. So I had it like on medium. I didn't want my oil to boil or to scorch. So, but it looks like they're coming. These are fried apple pies, and as I said, you can do the same thing. Just spray your pan and place it with some baking spray, and place this in the oven. And you would cook them on 350 for about 15-20 minutes, or until they're golden brown. So we're just doing the fried apple pies today. But just remember, and you don't have to add those spices in. I do, because I like the idea of getting something a little bit extra healthy into my food if I can. So, and I use like the nutmeg, the turmeric, the ginger. I use those spices because they do help. They have a lot of good healing properties to them. So don't be afraid to use them in any of your dishes. And turmeric, you can also use turmeric and ginger, which helps with muscle pain and inflammation. Use those in your soups, your chilies. You can also add it to, like the dish that I made the other day, the chicken fettuccine. You can add that in and nobody will be the wiser. Okay, let's pick one of these up and take a look at it. Okay. They're getting there. So we're going to give them just a few more minutes. Just a few more minutes here. And like I said, a lot of this that's in the oil, the corn oil, I had fried off a couple before because I was experimenting with different doughs. I was trying to come up with a dough that would give me that same crispiness that you get in the apple pies, like when you buy them from McDonald's. And I had to come back to this. I had to come back to the empanada dough. But you can make your dough. If you're good at making pie dough, by all means, make your dough from scratch. Make it from scratch. Okay. And so, as you can see, this only took about 5 or 10 minutes here. And I think these are ready to come out. They are ready to come out. See? Nice and golden brown. And they're starting to float. That's a good signal when you have like chicken or anything that you're frying. When you see it comes to the top and start to float around, then you know that it's basically done. You can still use your thermometer and take the temperature, but basically when it floats, that's a good indication that it is done. And now what I would do with these, I would take them and sprinkle a little powdered sugar over them, and we are ready to go. There you have it, your fried apple pies. And like I said, I used canned apples today because that made it quick and easy. But you can peel your own apples, and if you buy the apples, get your Granny Smith apples. And then add some cornstarch, Granny Smith apples, about a cup of cornstarch, mix it up, and then add your cinnamon, your sugar, your allspice, nutmeg, and add that in, and your sea salt and caramel, because we did add sea salt and caramel to these. And they should be wonderful. This is Miss Bessie signing off from IPA Eats. Enjoy your fried apple pies.